Hey guys, welcome back to the Buzzed Kitchen. Today we're gonna make macaroni and cheese from scratch. It's gonna taste just like when you were a kid. It's not gonna be Kraft. It's gonna be add a little bit of salt and pepper, and that's gonna make it magic. Delicious mac and cheese. But if you want to change this up a little bit, throw some Velveeta. If you want to get the orange processed stuff, all you have to do is exchange my cheese with that cheese, and it's awesome. The show here is the panko breadcrumb crust. The crunch when you get in there, it's gonna be so good, guys. Check it out. Well, we're gonna start off with a roux, which is basically 4 tablespoons of butter in an already hot pan. Watch it melt. You want it bubbly like that. You're gonna move it around. You're gonna watch that butter melt. And it's not gonna take very long. You're gonna move it around a little bit in the pan. I have this cooktop set at 212. See, it's already kind of cooled down the pan, but you can still see the bubbles. That beep was the 425 degree oven warming up. It's ready. We're not, but it is. You want this butter to melt and be bubbly like that. Move it around. So, like I said, 4 tablespoons of butter. And that is important because we're going to use the exact same amount of flour, 4 tablespoons. So, 4 tablespoons of flour. Now that this is bubbled down to nothing, you can mix it around a little bit with this spoon and dump that flour in. And right now, butter and flour, when you do this and mix it together, is called a roux. So if you ever hear anybody say roux, it's butter and flour. Here you have it. It's going to turn into like kind of a paste. And just like the last video, you're going to smell flour for a while until you smell like a buttery, delicious smell instead of flour. You're going to want to smell that the flour is cooked. So we're going to mix this around a little bit. It's going to turn into paste, as you can see. And it's not going to take very long. Right now, it doesn't really... You can smell it a little bit. So we're going to give it maybe 20 more seconds. It takes almost no time to turn into this paste. And now it smells like food instead of flour. From there, you're going to pour in 1 cup of milk. Slowly, a little bit at a time. It's going to boil a lot. And see how it's going to chunk up like that? It's going to do that. and it's gonna turn into this paste. Once it does, like, if you're in a non-stick pan, it's gonna do this. It's like a dough, then dump the rest in quickly. Then stir this around. You pour it in slow until it looks like a paste. Then put the rest in quickly, because that's going to cool down the pan where you can stir it around. You're going to want to keep your spoon moving to where it kind of turns into a thicker paste, but kind of liquidy. Now it's going to start boiling right now. See how it's thick? I need more milk. I will be right back from the refrigerator. This is a little bit thick. You want some more milk. That's too thick. If it looks like gravy, that's not okay. You have to put just a tiny bit more. I would say that's 1/8 of a cup. And you stir it around some more. Mix it in. If it gets thin, then it's good. Which I think it's going to. Pretty close. Still a little bit like a gravy. A little bit more. Another 1/4 cup of milk. So we're at 1.5 cups. You just want to see the consistency and add milk as you need it. Now it kind of looks like a liquid. We're getting there. That's pretty good. I'm going to guess that we're going to go all the way up to 2 cups of milk. See how it's stirring more liquidy? If you put another 1/4 cup, yeah, see how it's moving around like that? Whoop, spilled a little bit. See how it's starting to look more like, let's say, Alfredo sauce? You know, a creamy sauce instead of gravy. That's what you're looking for. Pour a little bit more, and I'm going to say we're at 2 cups of milk per the 4 tablespoons of flour and butter. Stir gently so you don't spill everything everywhere like I did. Slow down a little bit. Make sure it pours pretty easily. Move it around a little bit, and then take 1 cup of cheddar cheese and 1 cup of Mexican cheese, which is queso cheese, cheddar. It's a Mexican blend. I know you can find anywhere. And dump it in there. Turn the heat down, because you don't want this to thicken up anymore. Now you just want to melt the cheese. It's already hot enough that you just want to melt the cheese. It's going to start melting. See how it's already getting stringy a little bit. I'm gonna mix this a little bit more and get a paper towel because that's bugging me. I spilled, oops. You can see how it's thick still? It's too thick. Once the cheese goes in and it starts to thicken up like mashed potatoes, you can see, put a little bit more milk. Milk is your friend in this recipe. And stir it together until it is liquidy and cheese is melting all over the place, but it isn't so thick that it won't coat every little bit of macaroni we're about to make, which is boiling on the stove as we speak. Oop, did it again, dang it. I'm gonna clean that up because boo. Sorry guys, I made a mess. This is the Buzzed Kitchen, and I'm a little bit buzzed. But still, I want macaroni and cheese, so here we are making it from scratch. This thing just turned off on me. Dang it. Doesn't matter. With your induction cooker, it has to have contact with the whole pan. And it has to start up again. I'm about to abandon ship on this video if this doesn't start. I'm going to wipe the surface clean and we'll be back in a minute. It's irritating. Come on. I need Index. Clean it to be perfect. So, Index right here. So, yeah, please. So if you don't have a perfect contact with this thing, it won't work. Alright, cool.
Perfect for, being buzzed. It's so cool when it actually works.
Yeah, it's good. But now it just quit. This thing.
Now
Come
you
on.
want me to jiggle the cord?
No, it's
Red light.
It's there.
Okay,
It's good.
I can see. Okay.
so now. Yeah, I will tell you that induction cookers are cool except for when they don't turn on. I'm not editing to this video at all. It beeped. Okay, still can't turn it on. This is where, oh, it came on, okay. I was gonna just say, this is where I would go to a gas stove and cook like I have for my whole life. Still thick, still has a ton of cheese in there. We made a roux Then a béchamel, which is just milk added to flour and butter. And then dump cheese in there. See how it's thick like gravy still? You're still going to want to put milk in there. I will now say, I think when this thing works, it's good. I spilled a little bit. If I wipe it, I don't know if it's going to work again. We'll see. I'm at 212 degrees. It says right now. You want this pretty liquid. I would say that on a gas stove, on low heat, this probably wouldn't be as much work. I was praising this thing the other day, but you just saw it's kind of a pain in the ass. I do like the settings it has, but if it won't turn on for the next 3 minutes while you're trying to cook, especially when you're trying to thin out sauce like we were and still are, it's not working right. I still recommend it, but I think it needs work. Still a little bit thick. You're going to throw a little bit more milk in there. Spill it out a little bit. Stir slower than I am. Now what we're making is going to cover an entire 1 pound box of macaroni, which is boiling on the stove right now. And we'll drain that in a little bit and dump this in there. I'll show you how to do the breadcrumbs that go on top here in a minute. But there, now we're getting to that point. See how it's starting to turn into like a really nice liquid? It smells so good. And we're getting to that consistency. A little bit more milk. And when you add milk, stir gently. Can't be too crazy about it. I'm used to doing this in a big pan, not a skillet, so that's why I'm spilling all over the place. Sorry about that. I'm not really sure why I chose this skillet instead of a big pot for today, but it's still working out great. But you can't vigorously stir like you would be able to in a big pot like I'm normally using. But look at that. See now? See that pour? It's a couple of lumps. You're gonna just smash around a little bit. Once everything's mixed together, see how much I can move around? But once you put that milk in there, it gets it real watery and it jumps over the side. But see, that consistency right there is about what you're looking for, because it's going to thicken up in the oven. So this is about ready. We're going to put a little bit more milk in there, and we're going to dump it over some macaroni and cheese. I'm going to show you how to brown your panko breadcrumbs. We're going to put this into elbow macaroni, and bake it, and it's going to be the best stuff you've had in quite some time. Stay tuned. Okay guys, now we're going to toast the breadcrumbs, and you just need about 2 tablespoons of margarine. I'm going to move this around. It's going to get smoky for a minute. We're going to want this over medium-low heat until all this cooks down. See how it's cooking down? I have this set on 212 degrees. It just fought me a little bit ago, but now it's working nice. I'm up in the air on this thing. I really don't know, because I'm used to cooking on a gas stove. I like when it works, but if I can't turn it on, I'm not sure about it. But now basically, I'm going to turn it down to 176. It's the one under 212 degrees to where it's a simmer. Basically, we're going to make toast out of breadcrumbs. We're going to flip it around a little bit until it is basically like a pastry. It's going to be nice. So here I have a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. I'm going to move it around. Now see, I moved it down to 176. It's not bubbling just right. So I'm going to move it back up to 212 degrees to get it hot. I'm going to go and get a rubber spatula to move it around. We're just going to move this around till it's nice and brown. And we're going to put this on top of the casserole dish that we dump the macaroni and the cheese sauce we just made in. And it's going to make that really familiar taste that everybody knows. And it's going to be so good. But you have to make sure this is nice and browned. It's already getting crispy. Can you hear it? Probably not, but I can feel it. When you put panko breadcrumbs in, it's like flour. Already I can feel it's getting crispy. That's what you're looking for. Right there. And you push down, and it kind of fights back, and it has a little bit of crunch. That's the good stuff. Move it around. It doesn't take very long. You move it around. It already obviously soaked up all the butter. Flatten it out a little bit until it smells like freshly toasted and buttered homemade bread is what you're looking for. And I'll tell you, this smells awesome. That's what that's what you want to smell. Homemade bread, freshly buttered. Let it sit for a little bit. Move it around again a little bit. But you see how it's already darkened up? Doesn't take much. This is going to give you that crisp coating on the top of your mac and cheese. It's going to be so good. I'm going to stir it around for, I don't know, what are we at, like 2 minutes? maybe another minute. And then it's gonna be so good. You won't even know what hit you here in another minute. Flatten it out. Let it sit. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's starting to get toasted. It's already darker brown. I don't know if the camera's getting that, but I hope you can hear that, because it didn't do that a minute ago. Let it sit. It smells like freshly buttered toast in here. Then you move it around. You don't want anything to stick. You don't want to burn anything. Look, it's starting to get bigger chunks because the butter is holding everything together. And once it gets to almost little crumbly Long John Silver's chunks, you're gonna want to quit and then just put it over. It's gonna be kinda like the French fried onion crunchy taste, but it's just bread and it's gonna be so good. We'll be right back. We're gonna put all this stuff together. So what we have here is macaroni that is almost but not completely done. Al dente, that's what they say. You taste it, it's not completely soft. It is a little bit hard, a little bit firm, and you think it could go a little bit more. That's what you want. So we boiled it to that, drained it, put it in this casserole dish. Anybody recognize this one? I'm pretty sure a couple people might. But you take that sauce we made and just dump it in there. It's gonna be close on this dish because it's a good bit of sauce. You dump it in there. Just the smell that came from that pan, it was so good. Now what you do is you make sure this is completely incorporated, because that al dente macaroni and cheese, or well, macaroni, is going to finish in that 425 degree preheated oven. Remember that? So we just mix this through slowly. We don't want to dump it all over like when I was making the sauce, right? Whoops. We are still in the buzzed kitchen. But this is going to be so good here in a minute. We're going to cover this up. Once all this is mixed all the way through, look at that. That already looks delicious. But we want that cheese to cook into that macaroni and finish cooking it off with that cheese taste. That little salty and sweet and cheesy taste that's gonna go right into that pasta. You know how most people say put a little bit of salt into your pasta? I'm gonna say put a little bit of cheese into your pasta if you're making mac and cheese. This is gonna be so good. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna cover it up with aluminum foil and cook it 10 minutes in a 425 degree oven. I will be right back. It's gonna take 2 seconds. You're gonna take the shiny side and put it down towards what you're baking. Always and forever, shiny side towards what you're baking. And we're gonna put this in the oven. 425 degrees, 10 minutes, and we'll be right back. So here we are, 10 minutes later. We covered this up. Look how it's starting to all meld together. You're gonna mix this up a little bit. Make sure that all of that cheese is incorporated in between every little piece of macaroni. It's gonna be so good. You're gonna mix this up until you feel everything is coated. Then you're gonna smooth it out. You're gonna look at the crazy cat over here. You can't see him, but I can. He's just excited. He came up for the delicious smelling stuff. Then we're gonna take this right here, that panko breadcrumb and butter, nice and toasted thing. We're gonna sprinkle it over the top. Little scoops. Sprinkle it. And this is gonna make the best crust on macaroni and cheese that I guarantee most of you have tasted sometime in your life. You've had really good mac and cheese. Well, this is how to make it. You put this, we're gonna put this back in the oven at 425 for another 10 minutes. And we're gonna take this little bit of toasted panko breadcrumbs, and it's going to crisp it up even more. Like, say, instead of these breadcrumbs, we put mozzarella cheese. If you put mozzarella cheese, it browns and it becomes crusted and it's delicious. Well, we're doing that with these breadcrumbs, and they're gonna be so delicious. We'll be right back. 10 more minutes at 425 degrees uncovered. Let this brown, get crisp, and it's gonna be so good, guys. Oh man. So here you have it, guys. 10 minutes uncovered after we mixed it up. See how all of these breadcrumbs are just perfectly browned. And you're gonna hear, I don't know if you can hear that, but the crunch when you put that spoon in there. And it's just gonna be so delicious. I mean, look at that steaming pile of goodness. It's gonna drip all, I don't care. It fell on the table, I don't care. It's so good. Make this at home. It's way better than name brand, I'm not gonna say, but this is so good. Make this at home for yourself. It's so easy, and oh man, you're gonna love it.